All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Discussion of possible action on recommendations on claims.
Claims this evening are $1,552,773.05.
I move to approve the claims.
Motion
Second.
moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on recommendations on Resolution 21-16 requesting application for exemption from county library tax.
This evening, you have Resolution 2116 requesting exemption from the county library tax per state statute. The state statute, or the state allows municipalities participating in a joint library to be exempt from the county library tax, provided that the municipal library levy is maintained at no less than the average for the past 3 years. The average levy for 2014 to 2016 was $317,310. If approved, it'll be sent to the library in the St. Croix County requesting the exemption.
I'll move to recommend approval of the resolution 20-16.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second for approval. I just want clarification. So this is certification for the 3-year average, right?
Yes.
And is this included in the budget yet?
It's not included in the budget yet, but we would expect that it would be able to be, that amount would be able to be included in the budget.
Okay, and just so everybody is apprised of this, the $40,000 that went into the additional $40,000 that was approved by the council last year is included in the 3-year average.
Correct.
And so that amount went up over our 2015 amount by how much?
It went up over, the 2015 amount was $300,900, and then 2016 was $356,031, so $56,000.
And this year's 3-year average is?
$317,000.
Okay, so our 3-year average went up significantly based upon the additional $40,000 that council approved. Just so everybody's aware of that when we come into the budgeting cycle. And initially, it was a 5% amount that would have been increased over 2015, from 2015 to 2016. That 5% was increased by an additional $40,000, which put us essentially at about 16%.
Yes.
How does it impact the budget for 2017?
It would actually be a reduction because of the 3-year average. Had 16 not been approved at the 356, then the average would have been a little bit less. Does that make sense? Because 16 was 356,000, and now this average calculates to 317,000 approximately.
Okay.
Okay, everybody good? So we got a motion, a second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on recommendation on Class B beer and Class C wine license application for the St. Patrick's Church Fall Dinner on September 24th, 2016.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion a second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on recommendation on storm sewer repair project, the award of the contract, and approval of change order number 1. Tom, how you doing?
Thank you. As you mentioned, we have an item in front of the council on a contract award, which does include a change order at this early stage. We received bids last Thursday on the 25th for the 2016 stormwater repair project. The total bid, as you see, is made up of a base bid and 2 alternates. Zappa Brothers was low. Pember Companies was the other bidder. The $147,839 total bid of Zappa Brothers was higher than the original engineer's estimate. The engineer's estimate was $123,000. So in reviewing of the bids, typically we do that on all the bids for sure, but in this case, because it was higher than the engineer's estimate, we found a couple items that came to mind. In one of the parts, there was a, let's call it an inflated dollar amount due to a conversion factor, square yards versus square feet on a concrete issue. So really, the quantities on that particular part were off by a factor of 9. So the net result is the total base bid of $147,000 is actually going to be less than that based on that conversion factor. There was a wrong conversion factor used. The second item we looked at was we had a very high price on hydromulch. This particular project has 11 small areas spread out through the city, and the specifications included seeding with a hydromulch. It came in extremely high. When reviewing it with the contractor, again, it was because of 11 small areas spread out all over the city. We worked out a possible change on that item to include seeding with mulch, which does not include the heavy equipment. Basically, it's a hydromulch truck, and he didn't have that equipment, so it was subbed out. Long and the short of it, there's a savings we can accrue there, and without sacrificing quality of the end product. So in looking at the low bid, a change order has been prepared to address both those items. The concrete quantities that were off by a conversion factor, it's kind of a bookkeeping error, so to speak, but we want to do a change order to clarify it right from the start, because really, that item is really $11,660 higher than it should be, based on the quantities and based on what we really think we're going to build in the field. The second part on the seeding, we can save almost $5,000, $4,860, by just changing from a hydromulch to a regular seed. With that, we can have a revised contract amount of $107,470. It's proposed to fund this through the stormwater utility collection system maintenance budget. With that, the recommendation from staff would be to award the low bid contract based on the base bid to Zappa Brothers and include the change order number 1, and that results in, again, a net contract amount of $107,470.
Tom, how did the wrong conversion factor, or the use of the wrong conversion factor come to light?
Well, I went through the bids because, again, the bids were higher than the engineer's estimate. So I went in there and looked at unit prices to see, typically you do that on any award, but for sure with one that's higher than the estimate. And something jumped out at me that on this one project, we had a substantial amount of concrete removal. And so I went into that, and there was a factor of square yards versus square feet. So if you, whatever you have in square feet, you either multiply or divide by 9 to go from square feet to square yards. They had square yards, it should have been square feet. So the contractor bid the appropriate unit price, because all this is based on a unit price contract. But what it really amounts to is on that concrete removal, there is 9 times the surface area that we really are going to redo in the job, and we're not going to do that much. We're just, again, the quantity was off by a factor of 9.
Who used the wrong conversion factor?
Well, it was prepared by a consultant, the plans and specifications, which includes a bid form, and that's what turns into the,
What consultant?
Bolton Mank prepared the plans and specs.
And did you approve it
Approve.
when it was given, or is that when you went through it and said, whoa, whoa? Or
Well,
you
yeah.
caught it afterwards, so that's why the change?
We caught this afterwards, and from a real contractual standpoint, you really don't need this change order. If we proceeded and did not do a change order, this net total bid would end up being about $11,600 less, because we know there's $11,600 more concrete on this one particular item than we need. It's just off by a factor of 9, and I happened to catch that in reviewing the low bids.
I'll move,
I know it sounds a little confusing, but it's, the first part of that change order is just to clarify, if you go forward and award this contract, it's not with an extra $11,000 that we do not need in it. So the part A of the change order just hopes to clarify that.
Yeah, it corrects the contract amount from the get-go rather than
Right,
after the
right.
fact.
I'll move for approval of the revised contract amount of $107,470.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Discussion, possible action on recommendation on Resolution 22-16, a resolution providing for the sale of $1,885,000 general obligation promissory note, Series 2016B.
Sean Lenz from Ellers is here to discuss this item.
Hi, Sean.
Morning, Mayor, or evening, Mayor and Council. I wish it was morning, yes. I believe in the material that went out for the Finance Committee. You've got the pre-sale report, and I would like to go through that. Feel free to interrupt me with any questions as we move through the material. Brenda and I have reviewed the total finance situation for the city as she's come into the position. And as you recall from last year, around this exact time, one of the things that we did is we looked at a bond issue from 2008 that was coming up on its prepayment date or call date. And we made the assessment that given current interest rates available, it made some sense to proceed with refinancing that issue to try to lock into lower interest rates to lower the annual debt service requirement. Well, in discussing the same situation, Brenda and I were looking at the 2009 notes that the city issued. That issue has a prepayment date coming up on December 1st of this year, 2016. And we're able to do what is called a current refunding, which is a refunding that would be very similar to if you refund your mortgage. It's basically you borrow, pay off the old, and start paying on the new. We can do that within 90 days of that call date, that December 1, 2016 date. And so what we looked at is a couple of scenarios, and if I can have you all turn to the final exhibit, I think it'll be where I'll focus most of the attention of today's discussion. This is an exhibit that compares the existing indebtedness and the repayment on the 2009 issue that I'd referenced previously with the proposed new debt issue that will pay off that existing issue. So if you look on the left side of the page, there are 3 payments remaining on the existing issue that are due in December of 2017 and 18, and then June of 2019. And you can see the interest rates on those payments range from 3.5% to 3.7%. And in looking at available interest rates, we conservatively believe that the city could be looking at an interest rate of about 1.75% on the proposed new debt. And if you were able to lock into a 1.75% rate to refund the last 3 payments, if you look at the far column on the right of this exhibit, that translates to just below $19,000 less in principal and interest expenses each year over the next 3 years to pay this issue off over that exact same term that you're currently paying, just with lower interest rates and thus lower debt service. We looked at a couple different scenarios with this. One was going back out to the full market like we did earlier this year with the 20-year bond issue. The other option that we contemplated was maybe waiting until 2017 to when the city is looking at potentially doing another long-term issue. And then the third option, this is the option we're bringing to the Finance Committee, and then if you recommend to the council this evening, with last year's issue, instead of going out to the full market, getting a new rating, and going through the process of doing all the upfront disclosure documentation that's required, we did a limited solicitation, which was really focused on area banks in the Hudson area. And I think we had ended up with really good results from that last year. on a very similar 3-year issue, 3-year payback. And in looking at some other bids that we saw out there from local banks, similar to what we're contemplating here, that was the recommendation, was to go forward with that local bank solicitation. The timeline would be, if the Finance Committee and the council would like to go that approach on the issue, we would put the RFP together, send that out in the next week or so to the local institutions, ask for them to provide us a bid for your first meeting in October, and then we would come back and present those, the winning bid, to the council at that time. And if that bid was agreeable to the council, Finance Committee, I'm sure is recommending as well, it could be accepted and you could lock into the proposed rates at that first meeting in October. Brenda, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. Okay. So that was the approach. That's the plan as it sits now. But again, before the Finance Committee would take any action, I'd be happy to answer any questions on it as well.
Is the 1.75 rate your best estimate as to what you think the response will be?
We looked at a couple. We had one from, I believe it was the city of Chilton, I think is what we had looked at. There was at 1.25% for 3 years at a fixed rate. So I think the current market, should it stay the same, this is a conservative estimate of what we're seeing out there as a possible interest rate for this paper, for this debt issue.
When was this debt first incurred?
2009.
9. And last year, the rate that we got back was 1.544.
Right.
How long is our credit rating good?
The bond rating is, every time the city does a bond issue that we're bringing out to the full market, we contact the rating agency to update the rating. The rating itself, while you have any debt issue that has been rated, general obligation debt issues that have been rated, the rating stays outstanding. And the rating agency reserves the right to come and ask us about the current financial status of the city at any time and do what they would describe as a surveillance rating. That they, because the city's been on a every year or every other year issuance over the last couple of years, I don't think they've done any surveillance ratings recently. It's been as the city has proposed a new issue, we go through the renewal process at that time.
Okay.
And just, Mayor, you may already know this, but the rating of the city currently is AA2, which is a very, very good rating, AAA being the best, and just one step in between where the city is now in that rating.
Right. Thanks. Anybody else? I'm sorry, did we have a motion?
Yeah,
No
I'll
motion.
move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved, thanks.
Thank you.
Discussion possible action on recommendation to authorize city administrator to begin recruitment for 2 paramedic positions.
Hi.
Good evening.
So we have 2 of my full-time paramedics have requested a drop to casual status. One's currently working 2 full-time jobs and looking to spend more time with the family, and the other one is pursuing a job in education. So these are positions that are already budgeted. We're just looking to replace them.
Brandon, what's the budget effect of this proposal?
There would be no change to the budget. We're just replacing current positions.
I knew that, I just wanted to, I just wanted
That's cool.
it to be said so people understood that there's no,
Yeah. I'll move to approve filling the vacant full-time paramedic positions.
second.
Motion and second to approve. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's approved. Thanks, Brandon. Items for future agendas?
One real quick thing is I had asked that at our special meeting for the city clerk that we had an exit interview with her. Where is that gone?
I had met with her for about an hour. There was no formal questionnaire or anything like that. I took notes. She was looking to get down to Florida. She wanted more money. But I don't think the money was a deal breaker necessarily. She just wanted to be in Florida. Her husband was looking for work down there, may have already secured a position down there. And she just had a couple recommendations on how to proceed in the department, and, that was about it.
I guess I was looking for more of a formal exit interview with the finance committee under personnel.
No,
That's what the motion was intended, is that what I always thought it was for when it was made?
okay, I guess that would fall on me. And I guess I didn't fully understand that, nor have I been through a formal exit interview, and maybe we ought to establish that with our personnel committee.
I do, because I just think there's been a big revolving door in our city employment, and with there's something going on, and I want us to be on top of it as the oversight committees. So if it needs to be on the next agenda, or in the next future agenda, we need to grab hold of our revolving door of employees.
Okay? And I don't know the answer to that, right? I mean, certainly we can follow up on your recommendation, but relative to other communities and other employers, I really have no idea if we have more exits than other similar communities. No idea.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay,
Second.
motion second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thanks.